Dan Illman, Matt Bernier, race number 9 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday is the Grade 3 Mike Charmer Stakes at 1 mile on the turf for fillies and mares. You can play this race and this really nice quality-filled Gulfstream card with a new DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com. Receive a 300% deposit match. Let's meet this overflow field for the Grade 3 Mike Charmer. $100,000 is the purse. Matt, on first pass, I saw a lot of speed in this race.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. To me, this is one of the more, let's say, wide open races of the day on Saturday. I could call it a scramble. I could call it just a war. I think you can go a few different ways in here, but I agree with you. When you look at it from a pace standpoint, I think that's why I think it is as wide open as it is, because I think there's going to be a legitimate pace signed on. If it ends up crumbling, you're going to have an opportunity coming from the back of it. And if for some reason, as we've seen in the past, occasionally paces don't develop the way that we think that they should or would, and then all of a sudden perhaps someone with a little bit more tactical speed can get the jump and get the job done.
The speed nearest the rail looms the number 3, Conquest Hard-Candy, who has done some good things when allowed to control the pace in her career. Now, when she faces other pressure, she doesn't seem like the same filly. Last time out in the Ticonderoga, they kind of took a hold of her, and I don't really think that's the way she wants to run. She ran perfectly fine, a career best 90 Beyer speed figure, but looking over her PPs, I think she likes to freewheel it on the lead, and I just think there's going to be some pressure for her.
Yeah, this feels like a kind of a no-win situation for her, where if she's allowed to get out there on the front end, she's probably going very, very fast. The problem is, I think she needs to be out there in order to be at her best, and if she is, again, they're probably going too quick, and I think it ultimately works against her. Timeform
US has the number 7 Cherry Lodge on the early lead, and I agree with this assessment. This filly is stretching out from 5.5 furlongs to this mile distance, and she actually went gate to wire at 5.5, showing some legitimate sprint speed in that race at Keeneland. Now, they've tried this trick before. They've tried to stretch her out against restricted competition at Saratoga. She was the favorite that day. She was kind of a runoff in the early stages, and then she tired late. She's got stamina on the top, but a lot of speed on the bottom, and I'm not sure she's going to last the mile.
The only thing that I would throw out there with a horse like this, and this is probably going to put her in the winner's circle, she's only gone this far once in her career, and she's trained by a guy that knows a thing or two about training horses and where they belong. At this point, I kind of have to look at it and say there's a reason they haven't tried her at this mile distance more often, because she probably can't get it. Maybe the stamina's not there. You combine that with that projected pace projector, I just don't like her chances.
It'll be really interesting to see how Tyler Gaffalione rides the 14, I'm Betty G. Just a miserable post position, going a mile at Gulfstream Park. This filly's pretty good. She's banked over 300 grand. She's won several stakes races, but she's at her best when she controls the pace. And they shipped her out west last time out for the Goldacova, and she caught a field that included Fahan Moura. So there was no way she was going to make the lead, and she just didn't fire that day. Is this another example of a horse that's just different when they don't make the lead? She needs the lead, perhaps.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way. At least she's at her best when she's out there, and I would take that farther step and say that she absolutely should be out there. The problem is, again, you brought it up, from that 14 post, you're kind of in a darned if you do, darned if you don't position, because if you're Gaffalione and you send hard, you're probably going to have to use more up early on than you would ideally like to in order to clear off to the front. And if you're content sitting just off of a target, what she's shown through 17 lifetime starts is that that's not her ideal running style. I think they're in a really tough position here. If I were the Connections, I would probably just try to go and maybe you park yourself or contest early on with a horse like Conquest Hard-Candy and hope that you're better than them. It's a tough spot.
A horse that might sit a wonderful trip, saving ground behind a fast pace, is the number 1 Bellevue, going out for Todd Pletcher. And this horse returned off of a lengthy layoff with a really professional and solid score at this 1 mile distance at Belmont. And we have a Pletcher formulator fact over the past 4 years. Older last out winners on turf off a layoff line of 45 to 60 days in graded stakes. Todd's got a $3 ROI and a 25% winning percentage. This filly is also a stakes winner at Gulfstream Park.
I was going to say, and really, when you think about it, you try to draw up the way the race could go. She could just set a beautiful pocket sort of trip in here. She has enough speed early on to be relatively close. She can also come from a little bit farther off of it. Go back to that Ginger Brew that she won here last January. She came from about 5 lengths out of it. So I think the versatility goes a long way. Todd seemed to get her to take a step forward in his first start with her. I can't really argue with anyone that likes her chances in here.
I really thought Special Event was knocking on the door in these graded stakes stakes races over the spring and into the summer, and she just couldn't get past Chad, whether it was Dream a While or LEC's World or New Money Honey. It seemed that Chad Brown always had one better than Shug McGahee's special event. Last time out in the Violet, I thought was a little bit of a disappointing performance. Bishop's Pond, the third place finisher, did come back to win a stake on dirt with an 86 Buyers speed figure. This is another filly whose best races have been forwardly placed. I think they're going to make a concerted effort to take her back and make one run. And as we've said many times on these programs on DRFTV, the Shug McGahee trained horses get better with age and maturity.
You know, I think the tough thing for me to kind of gauge her overall ability is early on, they clearly thought she was going to be a dirt horse, and then when they moved her over to the turf, she took a step forward. But it feels like she's just sort of a notch below some of the better horses in here. And I know they haven't tested her that many times against the top level ones, but when I see Elysia's World and I see horses like Dream a While, I think they would fit competitively in here, but they've just very clearly been better than special event. I just don't like her chances in here.
Before we get to our top selections, we'll look at some longer priced horses, beginning with the number 2, Killer Instinct, going out for Roger Atfield. This mare has been entered for a tag in her last 7 races or so. While she's run well at Gulfstream, she is another that likes to be forwardly placed. I can see her trying to procure a pocket position early, but that pace might be very fast for her.
I mean, based on what she's done thus far through 29 lifetime starts, you kind of know what you're going to get. If she wins, it's a big upset.
Coeur de Ballet tried to take him gate to wire last time out as the favorite at Woodbine. I found no excuse. She went 25-2, 50-4 in a one-turn race, and she still got run down. Now, I know Party Boat's a nice horse, but she was favored that day. I saw no excuses, and she ran some good races for Richard Baltas out in Southern California, and she just hasn't replicated that form for Roger Atfield.
You know, the interesting thing for me is going to be ultimately to see perhaps getting back to a 2-turn configuration gets her back, because keep in mind, all of her races at Woodbine, she tried the synth one time, but even the 1-turn mile, it's a 1-turn configuration. Some horses just don't take to it. She's the one that I would look, if you're really looking for kind of an out of the box kind of horse, this is the one to me where she's not a likely win contender, but you brought it up. Those races that she had run in Southern California last year, if she runs one of those, she got a big chance.
Second off the bench for the 5, Valentine Wish, who's hoping for a fast pace up front. Solid second for a solid trainer last time out, although this is a big step up in class. The horse that finished 9th in that last race came back to run 3rd in the Claiming Crown Tiara with an 84 Buyer. Valentine Wish has yet to eclipse an 84 Buyer in her career.
Yeah, another one that's just a little bit tough as far as speed figures are concerned. If you do think that second off the bench, she's a 4-year-old, perhaps you get a forward move. I'm not going to argue with you. I just still think she's a little slow.
Connection's taken a shot with the 10 Artesian, who's been a synthetic horse for most of her career. She has yet to hit the board from 4 starts on the turf. She is coming off of a rock-solid win at Presque Isle Downs over their Tapeta surface, and the runner-up that day came back to win a stakes race at Presque Isle, but only with an 80 Buyer.
Yeah, her recent form leaves something to be desired, but I will say she ran 4 races on turf, Gulfstream West, Gulfstream, and Tampa, going way back now to the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017. From a speed figure standpoint, they weren't horrific races. She still got her work cut out for her, but look, again, if you're playing a superfecta, I'd throw her in the bottom.
It wouldn't be a Gulfstream graded stakes race without Joe Desanimo, who's getting blinkers on. She's 6 years old. It seems like she's been around forever. She is bringing a long losing streak to the party. She has not won since October the 1st, 2016. You really got to go back to the Wayback Machine to find her competitive race.
It's been a minute since we've seen her best, and it just based on the recent form, unless the blinkers wake her up, I just have a hard time envisioning a turnaround.
Pas de Souci, I think, has a bit of an outside chance here for Jorge Abreu. Part of a good pace last time out in the Athenia Stakes, a race which was run by the very talented Rimska coming from the back of the pack. And 2 back at Kentucky Downs, she ran okay over kind of a quirky configuration of a turf course. 3 back, she only got beat 2 lengths by Uni when on the lead. Again, that's kind of been a theme for Pas de Souci. Good races on the lead, okay races from just off. I think Louis Saez is going to try to park this horse just off the pace. I may be too fast for her.
I was going to say, really, that's going to be the thing that could be the undoing of a number of horses. And we've made mention, if you are, it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't. You don't want to let those leaders go too far ahead, but if all of a sudden things heat up and you're too close to it, you're going to pay the price late. She's one that I'd keep an eye on if the rains do show up and you get a little bit less than firm going.
Dixie Moon won the Woodbine Oaks last year over a synthetic surface, but she's okay on turf as well. They put blinkers on most recently. She responded with a pace-pressing score. She is versatile enough to come from the back of the pack. Big question about class, despite being a Woodbine Oaks winner. Remember, that's a restricted race.
I also do wonder about this distance too. Part of me thinks that she is better at longer distances, a mile and an eighth. Even go back to that run 3 starts back. I know she didn't win. She ran into Avi's Mineshaft. That was at a mile and a quarter. I think that was one of her better races.
Let's talk about our top selections in this race. It'll be very interesting to see how they bet the race. I think the favorite will be in the 7-2, 4-1 range. Capilla Temptress, the 8, is the morning line favorite. I don't think she will be the favorite. I think my top pick, La Moneda, will end up being the favorite. But again, the favorite will be tepid. Let's talk a little bit about Capilla Temptress, because you can make an argument. Drop in class, dirtied up form.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple different angles for me with this one. I was stunned to see the morning line. I'd be very, very surprised if that's the price that she went off. If she does go off at that price, I would be going the other direction. But you go through and look at the 2 most recent runs, the one at Keeneland, the one at Belmont Park. Keeneland, there was just no pace, and there was nothing for her to run at coming from the back. I think 2 back, she was taken out of her element. She was much closer to the pace than I think she wants. I think she's a horse that would appreciate coming from mid, if not farther back. But more importantly, and I know that run 3 starts back looks solid enough in the Lake Placid over soft going, I think getting back to the mile trip is going to be a giant, giant difference maker for her. You take a look, 2 of her best races to date. One of them came as a juvenile when she came here first time North America and won the Natalma up at Woodbine. And then earlier this year, that run over at Longchamp in that Group 1, she's only defeated by a half length in a field of 14. So to me, the trip is really what this entire thing is all about for me. I think getting back to this mile with some pace, I think she's got a big chance in here. I would hate her at 7-2. But I think she ends up somewhere in that middling range, 6-7-1. If that's the case, I'd play her.
I agree 1,000% with you about the distance. I think cutting back to a mile with the presence of all this pace in this race really sets her up. You can make the argument she's the best pure closer in the field. I think she will drift up. I like that they're putting Lasix back on. La Moneda is very consistent. She finally tasted defeat after winning 4 in a row last time out, but it took the favorite, a solid Chad Brown trained horse named 55, to run her down late. La Moneda will probably be in mid-pack here. She's also cutting back to a mile, and I think that's her favorite distance as well. I think La Moneda gets the jump on Capilla Temptress turning into the lane, and then I'm screaming wire because I have a feeling Capilla Temptress will be coming. Give me numbers.
Yeah, I'm going to go 8-6-1 in here.
I'm going 6-1, 14-3 in the Grade 3 My Charmer Stakes, one of 5 graded stakes races at Gulfstream on Saturday. It's a smorgasbord for new DRF Bets members. Sign up at bets.drf.com, receive a 300% deposit match. Approximate post time for a very competitive renewal of the Grade 3 My Charmer, 4:05 Eastern. Good luck.